Welcome, Badass Manifester. I am so glad you are here. I'm your host and head coach, Ashley Gordon, master mindset and manifestation biz expert, founder of the Quantum Coaching certification, and multiple six-figure entrepreneur obsessed with empowering you to create quantum leaps in your energy, your life, and your business. This is the show to help you make magic your everyday normal, where the ripple effect is real and the guest experts are world class. My mission is to power your conscious and subconscious mind with manifestation teachings, business tools, and coaching techniques to put your potential into action. Consider this your weekly up level. Are you ready for quantum transformation? Let's do this. Welcome back, Badass Manifester. Today, we are taking a trip down memory lane. The memories of starting this podcast. I would imagine that I would be where some of you may be right now, in the place of wanting to really step into your calling, really step into your mission on this planet, and yet have a lot of fear, a lot of doubt, a lot of imposter syndrome, a lot of different things going on. I was afraid of success. I was afraid of failure. I was paralyzed in the fear of embarrassment, the fear of rejection. And I let it stop me for too long. And so this episode is one of my first few episodes on the podcast that I have a couple students who are coming back to me saying, this episode has deeply impacted them. And I thought, you know what? Let's bring it back around because I think it's such a perfect time when we are, I'm in a season of talking about becoming the dream coach. I'm hosting a live masterclass on Thursday this week, May 2nd, May 3rd, and May 4th. And as I'm getting ready to launch this masterclass, all about stepping into this calling, all about being brave enough to really step into the thing that you know you're meant to do on this planet, and help give you the tools to actually do that, I have to think back and go back to the beginning, back to the start. When I launched this very podcast, I had so much fear, so much imposter syndrome, so much coming up around what other people would think about me and the concern for looking good. And I talk a lot about that in this episode. My perception of perception, really going deep dive into explaining perception. And I want to read this to myself and I want to read this to you, this little note that I wrote myself that I think will really resonate with you. And I also want to invite you to get registered for our live masterclass, Become the Dream Coach. It's going to be life-changing. It will be the first step towards really up-leveling. And whether you're a brand new coach or a coach that's been around for quite some time, you will up level so much. You will learn so much in this masterclass. I promise you that. So here's my love note to you before we jump into this episode. It's a letter to my past self and hopefully a letter to your past self. And maybe some of this will resonate with you. Dear past self, thank you for having the courage to walk away from work that wasn't serving you, to follow your calling for something more. Thank you for working through fear to actually create what you wanted out of life. Thank you for having the courage to start coaching people even when you didn't know what you were actually doing. Thank you for investing in yourself when you were scared of putting $12,000 on a credit card, knowing you were going all in on a business that you didn't know how to start. Thank you for starting a business and building something out of nothing. Thank you for putting yourself out there when it was scary AF. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your heart. Thank you for doing the deep inner work along the journey. Thank you for starting a podcast when you did and allowing your channel to open up and be a messenger. Thank you for not knowing your niche in your business for years because it led you to your higher calling. Thank you for all the trial and error I went through to find the thing that I meant to do. Thank you for hiring the most incredible team members who have helped elevate the vision, mission, and impact of what we do. Thank you for leading from your vision and starting a coaching certification that is now internationally accredited and board NLP certified. Thank you for always up-leveling your coaching craft, leadership, and facilitation to be able to hold the container for so many coaches who are here to make a massive impact in the world. Thank you for seeing yourself. Thank you for speaking on stages and saying yes to opportunities, even when it pushed you way outside of your comfort zone. Thank you for believing in yourself and fucking going for it. Endlessly grateful, Ashley. P.S. Following your calling is always going to be scary. Living your dreams will push you outside of your comfort zone. And isn't that what you want to do to help others? Isn't that what you want to help others do? Push through fear, limitations, and help them access what's on the other side. We have to go first. We have to take the leap. We have to show up as our future self now. Now's the time, and the time is now, isn't it? Oh my goodness. Okay, so that was my letter to myself. Hopefully that resonated with you as well. And I highly encourage you to write a letter to your past self, even right now, where you sit right now. There's a version of you now that couldn't imagine the life that you have just a few short years ago. So do that. Enjoyed this episode. Sign up for Become the Dream Coach Masterclass live. We'll be live. Me, you, me. Let's go. Ooh, 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 ooh. Okay. Without further ado, enjoy today's episode of past version of Ashley, who had the courage to put her fucking message out there. This was June 2018 speaking to you. Okay. So this is the past coming on up into the future. Okay. Can't wait. I don't know about you, but I'm super into Siri these days, now more than ever. I've only had her for like 5 years, I guess. And I'm all about asking for help. So, of course, I asked Siri, what is perception? And she said that perception is the ability to see, hear, or become aware of something through the senses. The state of being or process of becoming aware, understanding, or interpreting something. A mental impression. An intuitive understanding and insight. The neuropsychological process, including memory, by which an organism becomes aware and interprets external stimuli. Say that 5 times fast. Thanks, Siri. You rock. I like that definition because it breaks it down really, really simply. The way I interpret this definition, keyword interpret, is that perception is an interpretation. Perception is making our reality mean something. And this is huge because if you look around, especially in a crowded place, and you just think about this for a moment, everyone is interpreting something completely different from their perspective. Everyone is seeing something through their lens. Everyone is seeing something through the lens in which they see life. Another way that I interpret the definition of perception is that we don't see life the way life is. We see life the way we are. And if you know that everyone is seeing something different, having a completely different experience, and their experience is just as valid as your experience, that breaks through the barriers of right and wrong. Because from anyone's perspective, they're perceiving exactly what they need to perceive. They're perceiving exactly what they are capable of perceiving from the lens in which they are looking at life through. You know what I find so freeing is the fact that I have no control how other people see me. I have no control over how you see me, what you think of me, how your mom sees me, how my mom sees me. I have no control over that. All I have control over is how I see myself and what I think about myself. And that used to paralyze me for years. It used to stop me from taking action. Like, I would never be doing podcasts. No, because I was so afraid to put myself out there in fear of judgment. Who's afraid of judgment? You know? And it's normal. It's normal to care about what other people think, but it's not normal to obsess over it. And I don't know about you, but I find when I think about, caring what other people think, it's not the whole world. It's not the whole world. It's 1 to 5 people that you have in your life that you're like, I wonder what that person's going to think, right? And then you obsess over that person. And it's so ridiculous because you don't have control over how they think about you. They can think whatever they want about you, and how does that affect you? It doesn't have to affect you unless you let it. See, perception is choice. And the reason that I wanted to do this podcast is because we have a choice. That's like one of my main messages as a coach, is to realize your own choice. And to realize your choice, you have to really raise your awareness and start to really care about how you feel. So when I used to feel really bad and doubt myself, it was because I was so concerned about what other people think. And what I noticed in my own journey and in my evolution and through working with people is that perception can be bunched into 2 different categories as humanity, I see. As one being, we're afraid to hurt other people. We're afraid to make other people feel bad. And number 2, we're afraid of what people will think of us. So we don't want to make anyone feel bad, and we don't want ourselves to feel bad based on what other people think of us. It started as me really dimming myself so no one else felt weird in my energy. And I started hiding myself. And I didn't want to make anyone feel any certain way. I didn't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable if I started talking about the universe, or I didn't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable if I spoke my opinion on something. So I was really, for most of my life, I was very unopinionated, I would say, until now. Until I really started to share my truth and share my wisdom, I was afraid to share my opinion. Who wanted to listen to me? And then the other end of it is who wanted to listen to me, afraid of judgment, right? That's the fear of being judged, fear of being rejected. I want to share with you a story about how I got over my fear of what other people thought of me. I was at my level 2 yoga training, which was a week-long boot camp. And this yoga training is really about getting into your full self-expression. And believe me, when you're in your full self-expression, there are 0, excuse my language, 0 fucks given. And it has to be authentically that there are 0 beep given, right? And we had to do so many exercises around breaking the resistance between where we were and where we were authentically. And one of the exercises was blindfolded yoga. Everyone, 125 people, put on blindfolds, and the teacher facilitator led a blindfolded practice. I was right up front, right next to the facilitator, and I had a serious problem with blindfold yoga. I couldn't just let myself be free and go because I realized that I was wondering what the instructor was thinking about me and my practice, and if it was messy because I was blindfolded, and if I was falling over, and if I ended up on the other side of the room. And after the practice, I went up to the facilitator and I was crying, and she said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Wow, I think I just had a breakthrough. I care so much about what you thought about my practice. Isn't that funny?" And she just kind of let me be in that. She really didn't say much after that. And then the next day, we had to pick a nursery rhyme. And I picked Row Your Boat. And we had to perform, well, not perform, we had to express our nursery rhyme in front of a group of people. Like, we were split into 3 groups, so probably like 30, 40 people in each group. People were so nervous to do this. People were crying, they wouldn't go, and then finally they would go, and then the people that were into it were just getting up there and going crazy, just freaking out, expressing the nursery rhyme, not caring at all and just being free. And as silly as it was really inspiring. And I'm like pumping myself up. I'm like, this is my jam. I'm super outgoing. I could totally do this. I got this. And I got up there and I didn't realize it, but I had the whole thing planned out in my head. I got up there and I was like, okay, I'm going to rap. I'm going to be really cool. I'm going to rap. So I'm like, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. And the facilitator is coaching me and he's like, stop, 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 stop. And I'm like, what? What's wrong? And he's like, you're performing. And my perception was I wasn't performing. My perception was I was doing a great job. And he said, just express it. And I think I went black because I don't remember like how I did it. And I was just going crazy. And you've got, you know, so many eyes on you and you're just like freaking being seen for expressing yourself in a way that you don't normally express yourself. Well, in a way that I definitely didn't express myself. My expression was big and controlled. And the whole time up until that point at the training, I was waiting for my breakthrough. I was waiting to share something. And I was like putting my hand up to share things that really weren't even relevant. I never even got called on. I was just like, I want to say something and I want to sound really good when I say it. And it wasn't until that moment that I didn't even think about putting my hand up. She said, who had a breakthrough? And I put my hand up and she called on me right away. And I went up there and I said in front of all the people, I said, I realize where I hide in my life. And she said, where do you hide? I said, you know, my friends always tell me that I'm so outgoing and that I bring this outgoing energy into our relationships and it makes them more outgoing. And I'm very expressive and big in my personality. I said, but that's exactly where I hide. I hide behind my personality. And I stood there in silence. She stood there in silence, and 125 plus faces stood there in silence. And it was like that really awkward silence because I just shared what I had to share and then nobody said anything. And my ego was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, I look so bad right now. And so what did I do? I filled the space and I was like, yay! Just like jumped up and I was like, yay! I was basically like, I hide behind my personality. Pause, 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 long, awkward pause. And then I just was like, yay, okay, like, can I sit down now? And she said, stop, that you're doing it. That yay that you just did, like, you're performing right there. You're doing it. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. I am doing it. And she said, okay, this is what we're going to do. I want you to stand here. I want you to look at everybody. Everybody look at Ashley. She's like, stand here. She pulled my hair back. She made everybody stand up. And everyone started clapping for me. She said, everyone just go crazy. And everyone's clapping and cheering and looking at me. And then my whole body starts shaking. I'm crying. I'm like convulsing. And the other assistants were back by the microphones and music. And they're standing on the tables clapping. And I just had to stand there. And she's coaching me in my ear. And she's like, you don't have to do anything. She said, you don't have to perform. You don't have to pretend. They may be performing, but you're not performing. You're just standing here being you. Whew, talk about a perception shift. Talk about shattering my old perception, because that had everything to do with people pleasing. That had everything to do with not making other people feel bad. That had everything to do with caring about what other people thought. And in that moment, I felt like I was free. I felt I accepted what was coming at me, and I accepted myself. In my journal through that week, looking back on it, I wrote that I'm ready. I'm ready to share my light. I'm ready to share my voice. I'm ready to share my gifts.
Because if I don't, it's actually selfish. And I looked at the impact that I would have on the world if I didn't share my gifts, and the impact I would have on the world if I did share my gifts. It was such a powerful moment in my life and pivotal moment in my life where I had to be seen for all that I was, all that I wasn't, and be okay with it. Because what all of those people thought in that moment had absolutely nothing to do with me. And there's nothing freer than that. Being free of caring. I mean, it's normal to care, don't get me wrong. It totally is. But it's not normal to obsess over it. It's not normal to care so much where it stops you from living your dreams and from doing what you are here to do on this planet. So I want to leave you with a tool. Perception is reality. Perception is also your interpretation, like it said in the definition. And your interpretation of reality is your opinion on reality. This was a game changer for me. A game changer. If you understand that you're interpreting your reality based on your opinion, based on your identity, based on what you've been through in your life, based on your belief systems, based on what you've been taught by your parents, how you grew up, you're interpreting your reality in a completely different way than anyone else is interpreting their reality. And your interpretation of reality is valid. And someone else's interpretation of reality is valid. The tool I want to leave you with is very simple. I want you to start to know and become aware of where you're interpreting, where you're putting your opinion on, where you are putting your perception on reality. And believe me, you can't know it all the time. But if you're in a situation that doesn't feel good, or if you're coming up against something that feels resistant, or if you're believing something that you don't like, I want you to ask yourself, is this true? Is this the ultimate truth? Start to question your thoughts. Ask yourself, is it true? No. Okay, so what is true? What are the facts? If you can get to the facts of each situation, it takes out the opinion. So the tool is get to the facts of what you interpret, get to the facts of your opinions, get to what's real, what's true. Because most of the time, what we make true isn't the ultimate truth. We make things true for ourselves that aren't necessarily the facts of reality. So another example of that, which I give frequently, is if I help my mom over a puddle. She could say to me, "You are the best, thank you so much." Or she could say to me, "What do you think, I'm old? Think I can't walk over a puddle?" Right? Those are two separate perceptions based on her reality that has nothing to do with me. And in that moment, what are the facts? The fact is, there was a puddle and I helped her over it. Period. Doesn't mean she's old, doesn't mean I'm amazing. It's just what happened. So we put so much meaning on all of it that is just non-essential. It's not essential to us, and it's not essential to moving forward. So getting stuck in our interpretations really causes us to stay still. And life is all about growth and moving forward. I wanted to share on this because this changed my mindset so much, where I got out of my story and I got into my energy. I started to ask myself how I feel, how I want to feel. And I realized that I'm telling a story that's not making me feel good. I'm also so grateful for all of the support for this podcast. I truly appreciate it. The posts have been amazing. The feedback has been amazing. And I also want to hear from you guys. So if you have a topic that you would like to hear about, message me on Instagram. I would love to speak on things that you really want to hear about. Woo! We did some work today. Thank you so much for listening. You know I love my BAM fam. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who you know would love it too, because we live for the ripple effect over here. And how can you best support the show? Make sure you're subscribed, hit the 5 stars, and leave a review on iTunes, and let me know how the podcast has impacted you. I love being part of your real-time journey, so screenshot the episode and tag me and my guests on Instagram at Manifest with Ash. Now say it with me. I am my own power source. I am the master of my own energy, and I deserve everything that I desire. We don't just talk about it over here, we be about it. Now go get 'em.